Welcome everybody. This is the episode 2 of the Pigskin Pirates. We want to do kind of just a shorter reaction video, just going through some of the Week 1 games and some of the massive changes, how it's changed, maybe some of our perceptions. I think there's going to be continued change. We'll find out even more in the next coming weeks because some teams played cupcakes, but there were some meaningful games, maybe some overreactions in some instances, but I think, Colin, I was going to turn it over to you. So, kind of give me your perceptions week 1. I know there's an elephant in the room, literally.
I love seeing Alabama fall as a Georgia fan, but it was really surprising. I had them not dog walking Florida State, but I feel like they would have came in with a chip on their shoulder after hearing what what's his name, Tommy Castellanos
Castellanos,
had to
yeah.
say about him all week. He's just been yammering, and he comes in and he just totally backs up his word. I mean, he's running all over him. Defense looked really shaky, especially for defending the rush. If that's just the quarterback run, I don't know. But obviously they both had new quarterbacks starting, but it seemed like the Alabama quarterback had a lot of trouble getting the ball moving, getting it going. What was it? Fourth quarter, Ryan Williams goes down and he has a concussion. I don't know when he'll be back, but it really sucks. Definitely one of the better players in college football going down week 1. You really hate to see it.
Yeah, I'm definitely off the Alabama bandwagon. I had it in here at 10-2, and that they would surge this year. I thought DeBoer was going to be a good hire for them when they first, even as a Tennessee fan, I thought they were going to trend down. They weren't going to. There's no way they can repeat where they were at Saban, but I was expecting more like Alabama's going to be still a contender, kind of more like the level of what an LSU or Tennessee or a Oklahoma lately. Some of these other programs, this kind of the second tier. Ole Miss is a good example. They're going to fall about to that level with every once in a while being able to beat a Georgia and a Texas and climb that tier 1. And we thought they're going to. This might have been the year they were set up to be in the tier 1. I think sometimes there's this we buy into logos that the Alabama fans like this is Alabama, this is we're always going to be this way, but it's football changes, and a lot of times people overreact. Oh, this team's been down 6 years. 4 years is a recruiting class. You have a player for 4 years. 4 or 5 years is a single coach, and if a coaching hire doesn't work, 4 or 5 years is really bad for you. I mean, sometimes teams are getting ready to coaches now in 2 or 3 years, but
Mm-hmm.
it still impact. It knocks you down 4 or 5 years, and you know, Alabama with Saban was the powerhouse. Alabama without Saban, who knows what kind of identity it
Yeah.
has. It could go back to pre Saban kind of situation. I didn't expect it to be this fast. I thought they would stay at contender. I my biggest concern is they just seem like they're very soft. They got beat up on the line of scrimmage. So I'm with their schedule and stuff. If I'm Alabama, I'm a little concerned about what I saw and about their ability to compete in some of these higher level SEC games, especially with some of the other teams. Granted, it's still early, but like an LSU or Tennessee or even an Auburn in Oklahoma is maybe a no, and they didn't really play anybody, but they're looking a little better than what they were in 2024. So, or the case of Tennessee, about as good. So, it has to be a little bit disconcerting if you're an Alabama fan right now.
Yeah. Um, I would say, obviously it's first game of the season. You can't truly like, oh, this team's
Yeah.
now like they're gonna be like 2-10, something like that. You can't just jump the gun or just like completely flip the switch. They play Wisconsin in about a week. I feel like that's gonna be a big game to see where they actually are gonna be this season. If they're gonna still be more of like a mid team, like you said, with like Ole Miss, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, like those types of teams? Or are they gonna drop lower, go like a little under that? Are they gonna try to stay with like the big four? I don't know right now. It's just a little confusing watching that Florida State game.
And speaking of maybe a potentially overreaction, I guess we could jump to the next. This was the Titan matchup of the weekend: Ohio State and Texas. You got the preseason number one and the defending national champion. What were your thoughts on what you saw in that game?
Um, I was a little surprised.
Same.
I expected it to be a very low scoring game. Mainly because there's two new quarterbacks starting. On that note, I did not expect Arch Manning to play that bad. He looked disorganized. A good amount of his passes were off target. Threw an interception. Only put up 7 points the whole game. Only thing that was a positive was his running was okay at least, but that it didn't look like a SEC starting quarterback there. Julian Sayin, on the other hand, he played pretty good, especially going up against Texas. That's one of the best defenses in the league, and I wouldn't say he's like going off on him, but he's playing pretty good, and Arch Manning is not performing to say it all.
Yeah, from the perspective of a playoff race, this game is kind of, in a lot of ways, meaningless because the loser can still recover. That being said, I agree. Just the way the teams looked, I do feel like Ohio State has the more potential to get upside in the fact that I think their offense can grow quicker. But Arch Manning, he could get better. He could get better, but it was a little disconcerting. Now Texas still, in my opinion, feels like they can make the playoff, but look at their schedule. They got Florida, who's still kind of a mystery. They got Georgia. I don't think they'll beat Georgia. I would be surprised, but because they got to go to Athens. Then they also got two other tricky games I see is Arkansas and Texas A&M. Outside of that, they do got a pretty easy schedule, which still kind of lends them. Why I had them 10-2. I had them losing Ohio State, but with the way that offense looked, it could open a door for I don't think they could take a team like let's say Arkansas who would make their season if they beat Texas. They can't take like a team like that for granted.
Yeah.
Unless Arch starts improving, that they're a little bit more shaky. I almost want to lump them more into tier two, but with their schedule, I still think they're like a tier one. I still keep them there, but I just don't feel very strong about them. I don't feel like they're going to win a national title or unless things just change drastically.
Yeah. Obviously, once again, it's week one. Like you don't want to just he shouldn't start at Texas. He's such a bad quarterback. Like there's no reason to do that. Once again, he's playing against Ohio State. It's not like he's going up against New Mexico State, Tech, Christian University. Like there's a lot worse teams out there. So you know see how he plays in the next few games. Could have just been like first Power Four start jitters or something, but he didn't look very complete out there.
And from what I understand, they got I don't fully have their schedule. I guess we could pull it up, but I think they got three cupcakes, and then the three out of conference. Like San Jose State's their next opponent. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, pull it up.
They play San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston.
Yeah, those are make right games, what you call them. Then they get a bye week, and then they travel to Florida, and then they get Oklahoma. That Oklahoma is another team. I forget that they, for some reason, I forgot that game. That's like their biggest rival in their schedule. But that's a game they probably can't take for granted either. Texas has had a history of losing to Oklahoma, even when Texas had the better teams. So we'll see how. Maybe they do drop to a 9-3 now with this schedule. We'll see. We'll see. But not as impressed by Texas. I still think Ohio State's going to be a contender. I think their offense needs to grow a lot. That kind of opens up to the next game, LSU and Clemson, the other big top 10 matchup. Very impressed by LSU and their win. What was very impressive about LSU was their defense, actually. Their defense won the game for them, and nobody was expecting the court when LSU was great. They played great defense back in the day. They're notorious for their defensive tackles when they had their mid 2000 runs, and I think Nick Saban started out, then they had the Les Miles era, and I think that if they can get back into that form, that tie that with the offense, they could win. I think their offense was a little bit slow that game. I think a lot of it was just Clemson though. Unlike the Ohio State Texas game, even though this game was low scoring, it felt more like good defense than bad offense. Well, Ohio State and Texas had a little bit of blend of if you just look at the offenses, quarterbacks not hitting wide
Yeah.
open receivers. Some of more errors than what I saw in the Clemson LSU game, which really felt like two contenders. And I don't think Clemson's out by any means. I think Clemson still could win the ACC, still could win the playoff. Now, the ACC is looking stronger with Miami. We haven't got to them yet. And, of course, the Florida State.
Yeah.
So there's some teams. Georgia Tech's got a pretty good team. I haven't seen Louisville yet. Uh, so Syracuse is kind of tricky with its offense, but I think that there's a ACC is a little bit stronger conference, but I think Clemson could still very much win it.
Yeah. So when I picked my team for this game, I was expecting Clemson to win because LSU had no defense. That's been the narrative for 4 or 5 years now. It's always been offense, defense. Like there's very little defense out there on the field, but this is an LSU team that is, it's a good mix of both. They have a great quarterback. They have some leaders on defense. That last drive on Clemson and they're stopping them on fourth down. That was really impressive. Clay Clemson is a great quarterback. They have some great wide receivers. They stopped them. I'm not going to say that's something that they wouldn't do. 2 years ago, but would have been a lot harder. So a lot of props to that LSU defense, and it was really impressive. I guess now.
And one other thing to add about that game with LSU, they were kind of resilient. They had a touchdown call back on arguably a controversial call, and they still ended up coming out of Death Valley. That's a big win for LSU, I feel like. And I still feel like Clemson's not going away, though. Kind of going off the Ohio State-Texas beat, it's probably, in a scheme thing, a meaningless game, and it was probably meant more for LSU to win it with the tougher slate than Clemson. Because I think Clemson can just win out. They got South Carolina. I think they will get Florida State. They'll get. I don't know if they get Miami or not. I have to look at their schedule. But yeah, I think that Clemson has a chance to win out and still make the playoff, even with this loss. It's probably not a big deal to them, but Clemson's got to prove its offense a little bit. Cade Klubnik was not. He didn't look that good on the Clemson side, and I think some of it was LSU's defense. Though.
Yeah.
Then jump into the last top 10 matchup. Then we'll get into some of the smaller matchups. Miami and Notre Dame, which played on a Sunday. You heard in the previous podcast, I had Notre Dame winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
And one thing I was not thinking about with Miami is Carson Beck. Carson Beck looked comfortable again. He looked like that. Was it the 2023 Georgia year? He looked 2 years. He looked pretty comfortable in Miami's system, and it came down to the seniority and quarterback play. The game, Notre Dame made a run at the end, had a chance to possibly win it. Miami held on. Both teams were impressive. I feel like Miami's not a team who can sleep on anymore. I think they're probably one of the teams now I think's in the national title picture.
Yeah. It definitely struck me in a certain way seeing Carson Beck dotting up receivers like that. Not something I really got to see as much when he played at Georgia in 2024. But, I'm still happy for him. He had a really nice, complete game. He did look really comfortable out there. It just seemed like the chemistry with the wide receivers was, real high, especially for his first start at Miami. I would say where they're ranked right now isn't an overreaction. I think they're at 5? I think 5 is where they are. I'd say it's about where they should be. If Carson Beck continues to play like that, I think the defense is relatively stout, and overall they have a complete team just in general.
Yeah, and the ACC, I know it's been a conference kind of under life support, but it's got some good teams this year, and it's really where it should be. If they can get Miami and Florida State rolling again, keep Clemson up, that starts becoming more of a power conference like it should have been. There's a lot of you got a conference that stretches from Boston to Miami, has almost the whole Eastern Seaboard, a lot of media markets, a lot of fertile recruiting grounds. There's no reason the ACC should be as far behind the Big Ten and SEC as they are, but their conference that people are talking about collapsing and stuff. But it could be an interesting year in the ACC this year with. There were some teams that look bad too, like the Wake Forest and so the NC States of the world. But there's some good looking teams in that league as also.
And I would definitely not count out Notre Dame.
Agree.
I think CJ Carr, he just needs some time to get used to the offense. I think this was his first career start. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Riley Leonard took over.
I think you are. I think you're correct too. And no, I think I agree, and I think they could grow. And in some ways, he looked more impressive than the quarterback at Ohio State, which I'm kind of
Julian Saint.
Julian Saint. He looked better than Julian Saint did. Starting out, and so I think he was. I could be wrong. I think he's a junior though. It's just his first year starting. They got Notre Dame, but don't quote me on that. But so I think that they can grow. And their schedule is still very manageable now. I think they have to go 11-1 to even get a decent seed. They might sneak in at 10-2, but they with Notre Dame with their not being in a conference and having the service academies on their schedule, it always makes it a little bit. More challenging for them to climb the rankings.
Yeah, I'd say if they lose to A&M, and I think they play them in 2 weeks or so. I don't know if they'll even make the playoffs. Being at Notre Dame, they don't play in a conference. Obviously, there's very little room for error with the 3 teams that they have that are actually good on their schedule. So. It's not impossible, but you do probably have to win out or just get real lucky throughout the weeks.
Agree. Now, going into maybe some teams of interest, SEC teams. So I'm going to pick my Vols next. I was actually watching more of that game than the Ohio State-Texas. I did in the second half flip to the Ohio State-Texas matchup. Actually pretty impressed by the offense, especially my biggest concern was the wide receivers. And they did have some drop stuff, but they played pretty well. Interestingly, the Tennessee offense went fast. It's the first time it's gone fast since 2022, which says that Heupel will go fast if he has the right quarterback and the right people in place. So I think it's almost like we felt more comfortable with Joey Aguilar than we did with Nico Imiava in the past. And a lot of Tennessee fans are now touting that. The defense had some concerns come up. I do think... Once again, this is something you could read too much into week one. From what I saw, one thing I noted about Syracuse's defense was pretty mediocre, I felt like. Their offense was actually fairly good. Mm-hmm. They had that backup quarterback, I don't remember his name, but he jumped in. He was from Penn State. He played actually during the playoff win when Penn State beat Boise State. Yeah, he ended up jumping in and came in the second half and led them on, got a few touchdowns. The guy was confident. Syracuse actually had pretty good receivers. Their running game was meh, but Syracuse is a team that will be a threat to some people. I don't think they're going to win anything big, but they're kind of like what I think Florida will be in the SEC or South Carolina. They can scare people, but
they can win like 8-9 games and potentially upset Clemson.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of thinking. 8-4 seems like 7-5 seems like a Syracuse record. Syracuse they got a very tough ACC slate. I think they have to play Miami, FSU, Clemson, and SMU. I think they play all 4 of them for the arguably stronger ACC programs right now. But Tennessee, more to come on them. Is it week one overreaction, or how good are they? I don't feel like as impressed with them as I was like with LSU, for example. Yeah. But with Alabama trending down, if you look at the 2 teams that granted week one overreaction, you almost got to think Tennessee could beat Alabama, LSU could beat Alabama, Auburn. Well, they probably could beat Alabama. We haven't got to them yet. Missouri, Ole Miss, they have a shot at starting to look Oklahoma. So it's starting to look like Alabama's getting in a tough spot now with its rivals looking better and Alabama not looking as good. But I hate to harp back to Alabama, but that's kind of the note. So, I feel like Tennessee could probably be a fringe playoff contender now based on the team I saw. Mm-hmm. We'll see how they do. They can host Georgia in 2 weeks. Syracuse, obviously, Georgia's defense is far better than Syracuse. So we'll see. We'll probably do a special podcast about that.
I would just like to add that Nico Amaleave, Tennessee, got blown out by Utah, and Joey Aguilar had a pretty complete game against Syracuse. So, isn't that funny? Just letting just putting it out there.
Do you ever watch the SEC shorts on YouTube?
No.
Watch their video. They do like parodies of the SEC teams. They had at the very end the Tennessee guy like the mom putting. They made like kids returning for the first day of school.
Oh yeah.
And they had the Tennessee. They was putting the Tennessee fan to bed, and he was up in the middle of the night, turned on the TV, had a scotch, and was watching UCLA, and Nico and laughing. But yeah, I think that we'll yeah, I don't even want to get to UCLA because they're not even a contender. I had them at 3-9 even in my Big Ten standing, even before I saw them open. Or I will say this one thing about that game: Utah is a Big 12 contender.
I think they're ranked now. They're ranked 25.
Yeah. With the way I've seen other Big 12 teams struggling, watch out for Utah. Utah won I think 3 straight Pac-12. That's not they got a good program.
Yeah.
So. Then Auburn was the other one, and we're getting close to 20 minutes. We'll probably wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
We can dive into Auburn real quick. Got enough time. So I was impressed by Auburn's win at Baylor. Auburn coming in the season, none of the PR around Auburn was good. I mean, there was talk about locker room challenges, talk about the recruiting being bad this year, talk about all these issues, and they come out here and they beat Baylor. So either Baylor is not as good as expected, or Auburn is better than expected. And Jackson Arnold was pedestrian, but he was good enough to win that game. And it looked like, I thought from a leadership perspective, he looked more calm, more relaxed than he did at Oklahoma last year. So, Auburn's another team that I don't see them, I'm not as high on to say they're 10-2 like you had them in the standings, but I would probably go, I'd love to go back and look at their schedule. I could see them win 8 games. I think they're a stronger program now. That I think they're more of a contender than I expected.
I've always been relatively high on Jackson Arnold. I've just thought Oklahoma just wasn't his home. I expected them to win that game. Obviously, I have them at 10-2. I didn't expect them to. I wouldn't say they, like blew them out, but it seemed like they always had control throughout the whole game. And that was a little bit impressive. Jackson Arnold really used his legs that game. I think he went for 80, 90 rushing yards, something pretty high. Really liked what I saw out of him. That wide receiver core is dangerous. They have Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton, both really, really good wide receivers.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what happened last year, but I remember the only times I watched Auburn was when they played Cal. And their offense couldn't do anything against Cal, who's a pretty bad ACC team. So they've got night and day difference in the way the two teams look. I think we're close to wrapping this up. I think we want to be a little bit shorter this time around. We do plan on trying to put something together leading into the Georgia-Tennessee game. I think that we'll try to do something. Maybe I'll do. The thought maybe is we'll try to do something that you say why Georgia can win. I'll say why Tennessee can win.
Yeah.
In my standings, I had Georgia winning it, but I think Tennessee has a little bit more of a chance. But I think Georgia has to not play as strong, or Tennessee has to have a lot of intangibles and breaks go their way to win this game. That being said, I will say this: there's something about one thing I really liked about Tennessee watching them was that players playing together. Yeah. They kind of had a chip on their shoulder. This quarterback kind of has a chip on his shoulder. And that's a dangerous team to deal with. And I think Georgia's the better team, better coaching system. Kirby Smart's had Heupel's number. There's no denying that. But, sometimes, things can be broken. So we'll see how that goes. I'll try to project how I think Tennessee can win. You can try to project how Georgia win.
Yeah. I have a few thoughts about that. Yeah.
Georgia needs to play their game. Yeah, probably that's really all they need to do.
I know Georgia's kryptonite, and it's definitely a kryptonite. It's if a team just starts out fast in the first half, that's all you needed. You saw that with the Alabama game last year. Alabama hung 30 points on them in the first half, and basically didn't do anything until the final 5 minutes left in the game. and they won. Like if you start fast, you beat. I don't know. It's just that's how it works. I can't explain it.
Tennessee did start. I was in Athens last year. Tennessee did start
That's
fast. I was
true.
at the game, and
Yeah, that's true.
Georgia still put them away. Won by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, but yeah, thank you guys for listening in. We're going to continue bringing more content. Thank you, Colin. Always a pleasure talking
Yep.
to you. And let us know your thoughts, any ideas on how to improve, or any topics you want to talk about. We do want to dive in future sessions, being time conscious, but trying to get more information out that we want to talk about some of the topics. I want to talk about more of the non-SEC programs as well in the future.
Definitely, yeah. If y'all have anything that y'all want us to dive into, if that's ACC, Big 10, Big 12, like, let us know in the comments. We can totally make a video, predictions, champions, playoff implications, whatnot. We love to hear what you guys have to think.
Thank you.